Today we're going to talk about importing files for use in picture quilts or to use for sketch work if you're wanting to create an applique from a drawing or a picture. And the last that I use it for a lot is using it to bring fabric samples in. Let me show you down here. The different types of files that in EQ can bring in are BMPs, GIFs, JPEGs, PNGs, and TIFs. Now, if you have an SVG or another file format, you can always go to a file converter and convert your files to what you're looking for. There are free ones out on the internet that all you have to do is drop your files in, and then when it comes up, it asks you what you would like to change your file into, and you would choose one of these different formats that EQ uses.
And I would suggest a JPEG more than anything else. But I also
Uh,
had a question. What
yes,
does what does that basically eliminate that you can't use?
it eliminates SVG, a PDF, and there are some other programs that have their own file formats that are drawing programs. Obviously, if you can convert in your drawing program directly to the file format that EQ uses, that's the best way to do it when you're making a drawing for EQ. I have not found any way to bring in a drawing as a actual pattern because I had a question from somebody a while back was why am I drawing it? Why can't I just bring it in as a pattern? And I have not found any way to bring into EQ directly as a pattern unless it's drawn by another EQ program. Um,
See,
so,
that makes a lot of sense to me because you wouldn't be doing it on EQ if you could just draw it.
but I just want to make that known about there's no way to bring a pattern directly into EQ. You have to draw it. What you're bringing in with these files is drawing material or material that you, I say material, but I'm meaning drawing so that you can make your applique or the pattern you're looking to make for your block. That's another thing you can do. You can bring in a block pattern and you can actually create a block from a block pattern picture. So those are the different types of files that we can bring in to EQ, and there might be other reasons for using the pictures in EQ, but the main ones I know are picture quilts, sketch work, fabric samples. So we're going to look at a picture quilt that one of our members has made. Sally has made several of these, and I've never made a picture quilt directly from EQ. And she goes through and she actually prints her pictures from EQ. So, Sally, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Bringing the pictures in, you mean?
You had a few tips for us about it.
Yes. The main thing that I have found is you really have to sort of know what you're going, where you're going to put the pictures and the purpose of the pictures. You know, are you going to put them together into a block? Are you going to spread them out over the top of the quilt? Um, and you have to remember that you can't print them any larger than 9 by 7, you know, 7 across, because you've got an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper that you're going to deal with. And EQ puts the name of the picture up at the top and then centers your picture on the page. And you have no way of controlling the margins that you're going to have. So, like the pictures that Lynn's pointing to right now are, I think those are 4 by 6 on the final quilt.
I don't know why it's not letting me click on the picture itself. Oh, it's
You,
in another layer.
yes,
So I went to print and export and I clicked on this. Then I would click on photo
yes, yes,
and it gives the size that's in the quilt right
yes,
here. And
yes,
you would use it from that size from the quilt.
yes. And so when
And
you go to print, it centers it on the piece of paper. And so it can't be wider than, I think it's like 7 inches from the 8.5, and taller, it's down to like 9 inches.
if somebody
If that
wanted to
makes
use
sense.
more of the paper top to bottom, would you suggest that they print it from another program and not EQ?
Yes, that would work. That would definitely work if you want to print it from your Photoshop or something like that. But if you're going to plan the quilt on EQ, it's just so much simpler to just print. And I have also found that EQ prints the pictures better and higher quality, because once you've enlarged the picture, you lose some of the quality.
Integrity of the integrity
Yes,
of the photo, yes.
yes,
Like Sally said, it gives you the writing on the top and writing on the bottom, and you
yeah,
cannot omit that.
yes. And there's no way to change any of you can make it landscape instead of vertical, but that's the only thing that you can change. So now the pictures are in there. The one that looks like a t-shirt, that is just a
Yes.
placeholder picture. I did not plan to print that. That's a placeholder for the t-shirt that was going to be there.
And that's nice to have that in there because it gives you an
Yes,
idea of what it's going to look like.
yes. And you can get your colors, um, because I wanted to do shades of gray and the navy, and I just wanted to see how it was going to look. The one
Well,
in the
that
lower left, the t-shirt is sort of wrinkled, but
still, it gives you an
that's,
idea.
yes, yeah,
And you can even, if you wanted to, you could scale it to a certain size too,
yes. And
if in order to give a really good example, if you really wanted to go to the extra detail.
that's what I tried to do. I took a picture and then I scaled and I cropped it and I scaled it to the size that it was going to be in there. And you have to be careful when you do that, that you're actually scaling it to the actual size that it can be with pictures too.
I have one suggestion for you on that. A minute
Mm-hmm.
ago, I had opened, I went out to the internet and I found a ruler site,
Mm,
and it
yeah.
had one of these types of rulers that you could actually print and cut out in paper. So you didn't have to keep it around forever. You could just print it whenever you wanted to use it. And I would suggest you use a square like this and put it next to your fabric or your on top of your fabric or on next to
Mm-hmm.
your picture so that you actually see how big it is when you take your picture. So when you're
Yeah.
using the picture that you take, I use my phone a lot of times to take my pictures, and
Mm-hmm.
I can just go ahead and take the picture and go directly to EQ. And so when I have it in there, I can look at what size it actually is and scale
Yeah.
it. This one happens to be a 12-inch. So when I scale the fabric, I'm going to scale it to 12-inch. And then when I apply it, it gives me the fabric in the correct scaled size. The next thing I do is I crop out the ruler, and there I have a piece of fabric or a picture that has the exact size that it's supposed to be. For me,
Yeah,
when
and
it's fabric, then I add it as fabric.
well, and then also when you're adding it as fabric, especially when you're cropping out the ruler, it still stays to the proper scale.
Right. That's the way I import my fabrics. If I was doing like Sally does with the t-shirts, I would do the same thing. I might use
Yes.
bigger rulers, or since I'm doing it at home, probably I would have my wooden rulers right there for myself to use and take that picture. So then I get the correct scale for it. All
Yeah.
right. So thank you, Sally.
Okay.
That's an example of picture quilts. The other things I would bring in, you can use image work table to bring your pictures in, or when you're working on a block, you can actually go to when you have a new block up and you bring in a tracing image, you can actually import the image in with the tracing image under import image. Both of these do the exact same thing. One just brings you right into the block so you can take and start doing your work. For example, if I wanted to start working on an applique, I could import image from here. And this is one picture that I actually created an image from. And you can start drawing your applique right then and there. All right, so I've given you an idea of picture quilts, sketchwork for applique, how to bring your image in, and fabric samples. I also want to give you a few hints about using your phone to bring your pictures in. I've told several people this. Windows has a phone shortcut. So on mine, I have my phone linked to my computer, and I've researched this, and it says that you should be able to do this with an iPhone as well as an Android. Mine is an Android, and I can go right to my photos.
Yes, you
And
can with an iPhone because I've done it.
great, great. The nice nifty thing is you can go out here. Now, I don't have them out there because I deleted them off. But if you had pictures of fabric, you could. I was at a retreat recently, and what I did was I wanted to see what this quilt would look like in EQ if I put my fabrics in EQ. And I'm going to minimize this and show you that project. This is what I created on EQ so that I would get a really good look at what the project would look like with the fabrics in it. And I wasn't at home. All I had was a couple of rulers and my camera on my phone. So I took pictures of the different fabrics and with rulers so I knew what they looked like size wise. And then I brought them in like this one right here. That was just a piece of fabric I took a picture of with rulers, and then I cropped out the rulers later. And if you look right there, there's the fabric, and it gives me a pretty realistic view of what the photo would look like with it. And let me show you. Hang on a second. Here's my phone link. That's an actual picture of the quilt. And this is, can't get it any bigger, but this is the EQ version of it. I mean, that looks pretty good, like what I came up with. Of course, I put a few different colors in different areas, but you can see it gives a pretty realistic view with the fabrics in it. They're a little bit different, but not too bad. So just with your phone and a couple of rulers, you can take and bring your fabric into this project. Importing fabrics, importing pictures, and importing drawing are pretty straightforward.
I usually, when I import a photograph, and I usually crop what I want in the photograph before I import it. So when I import the photograph into the, what's it called, the photo work table, then I go and it says
Image.
resize the picture. Yeah, resize the image. And there's where I tell it how big I actually want it to be
The
in
picture.
the, yes. But the cropping it before you pull it in to EQ, I think is a lot easier than trying to crop it in EQ.
Okay.
And so you just bring it in as an image and then you just tell it. So maybe it's an 8 by 10 photograph that, you know, you've cropped it down to or something. And then you just tell it that you want it to be 4 by 6 or, something like that. And
And
using
one
the
thing,
resizing image, you have to do it in, well, inches or picas or, whatever.
and yeah, it gives you different choices here, pixels, image, inches, or centimeters. And I guess centimeters would be even more um, accurate, but we're all used to inches. The other thing about this resizing image is you need to unclick maintain ratio aspect to get it exactly what you want it size wise.
Yes. Although I leave on maintain aspect ratio to be sure that it doesn't distort the picture.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you can crop out something that gets in, if it doesn't look right, you can crop it in EQ. I just find it's easier to, crop it before I get in there
Okay.
to be
Thank
sure
you.
that I just have the building because I'm sure that picture had a whole sidewalk in front and then the sky or the trees, and that kind of thing. It was taken from more of a distance. So I cropped it, and then I resized it. And then if I need to, I can crop it. But maintaining aspect ratio for a photograph, maybe a drawing isn't as
Well,
important or
I was using it more for um, fabric because I wanted
yes,
to get a
yes.
specific size on the fabrics too.
Yes, yes. And you're not trying to make somebody too thin or too fat or whatever.
Also, if you were going to be working with photos, you need to make sure that you do any of your uh, light or enhancements ahead of time before you bring it
Hmm.
into EQ.
And you really want to use good pictures.
They do have special effects in here, but these special effects, they're not as good as using a photo program
Yeah.
to take
And I
and
find
clean
that
them up.
that editing on my phone is so much easier than trying to edit on the computer but that's just me, I think.
And I forgot that imaging does have some of these features too up
Yeah.
here. I have never used them, so I couldn't help you with it. For those of you who have done work on photos, you can play around with these if you'd like. And if you play around with it in EQ, you still have your original file that you can import it again,
Yeah.
or the
Yes.
original way that it was. So if I went to the Hue map and I messed something up really badly, I could always go bring it back in another time. Or
Yeah.
start with the original photo, because over here in photos, every time you save it, you're saving another photo into
Yeah.
the end. So you can always go back to the original over here
Yeah.
and fix it up from there. It's always nice to have an original to go back to.
Definitely.
I cannot think of anything else to give you hints about or to help you with.
The only thing I would say was don't be afraid to try it.
And just so you know, these quilts were created with the layout of custom. And anytime
This,
you use a photo, you have to do it custom because it's a specific size and you got to rearrange it all.
yeah, the only way you would use a photograph in a non-custom layout would be you just put it in place of a block.
Right. But
So,
it would have to be that size of that block.
yeah.
Or you could, I wonder if you could take and create a block and insert a photo into the block itself.
Oh, yeah.
You
Yes, you
can?
can. Yes.
Okay, so then
And
that would be
then
another way to.
when you print it, you just say that you want it to use the size in the quilt. Why don't you show that screen, the printing screen?
So what about the layers with pictures? You can put a picture in any layer, right?
Yes. And this is an early photo quilt I did. So I have it in the second layer. So
And
that screen says someplace on it, it says,
use the size from the quilt.
yes,
And again, I'm going to say this again because again, I'm going to say this one more time. I always preview
yeah,
everything before I print it. It
yeah,
saves you printing things out and then printing them out again and printing out again. So
yes,
I always preview ahead of time.
We don't like the oops.
No, and wasting your ink and wasting your
yes.
paper, and especially when you're doing pictures because you're wasting good fabric.
Well, and you
So,
cannot print fabric on a laser printer. It has to be an inkjet.
right. And to give you another hint, so a lot of us think we need to purchase the already set up fabric so that you can put it through your printer. But you can make your own fabric by getting Bubble Jet Set 2000, I think it is.
Yes,
And you soak your fabric in it and then you let it dry. You iron it out. And then the way I use it, I get cardstock. I have it in the 8.5 by 11. I use a little bit of children's school glue and put it down. And then I put the fabric on top of it. And I make sure that it's just a bit smaller than the 8.5 by 11, probably by a quarter of an inch or more. And I take cellophane tape and I tape it on the edges so that when it goes through the printer, the glue in the center holds the fabric to the center and the cellophane tape holds the fabric to the edges. Is it 100% workable? Not always, because sometimes the printer can leave ink residue on a setup like this. But
I still use the freezer paper, and you iron without steam. It makes a mess if you iron it with steam.
And you don't iron directly onto the wax.
No,
You want to have your iron on the fabric or the back side.
yes. And I always put something over a pressing cloth over top of it.
Or parchment paper works too.
Yeah.
So there's two
And
different ways you can do that then.
and for that one, you make it a little bit larger than your 8.5 by 11. And once you've got it pressed down really well, then you cut it to 8.5 by 11. And then you have some nice sharp edges to go through the printer.
Nice. I might try that in the future for a full sheet. A lot of times
Yes.
I'm doing partial sheets.
Mm-hmm.
So using the cardstock works excellent for, like I said, for the partial
Yeah.
as well. And like I said, a little bit of glue in the center holds it down better. I get a lot better results that way.
Well, the freezer paper holds it down, but like you said, you put through the whole sheet.
Right. For an 8.5 by 11 sheet.
Yes. Yes. And the printer thinks it's a piece of paper.
Yes, it does. Although I always monitor
Usually,
it. I run to the printer
Yes.
and I monitor it to make sure that it pulls it in properly and goes through properly. So I've
because once in a
had a
while
few mishaps here and there.
it'll do what it wants to once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
printers
and
eat paper too sometimes.
yes, and the freezer paper I think works the best with your less expensive printers that don't really like index stock or card stock.
Cardstock.
Yeah, the less expensive printers. And I never feed it through the drawer. I always feed it in the back. There's always a, place where you can feed just one sheet of paper through at a time.
So here's another question. Do you set when you're printing to high quality?
No,
Okay.
no, no. The stuff that you buy that's prepared to print, it tells you not to do that.
Oh,
And I I don't know if I ever tried it at a high quality or not, but I get very nice things. Using the bubble jet, it tells you to rinse it afterwards, but I never
yes.
get anything off of it really, like,
So what
any
I do
color or anything.
when I'm going to use something like I make labels for folks from the
Hmm.
inkjet printer and I remove it from my cardstock and I heat set it with a tea towel under it so the glue doesn't get
Yes.
on my ironing board. And then I take it to the sink and I use Dawn detergent
Hmm.
and it has a dual thing for me because it gets some of the extra residue of the glue off on the back, but it also removes the chemical from the fabric because I really soak it and I wash it with Dawn. And then I come back to my ironing board and again on the tea towel so I don't get any glue on it. I put it on there and I iron it out till it's dry. All right, that's our class for the day.